All right, Kansas City Chiefs. They were active. They retained Trey Smith, Nick Bolton, Hollywood Brown, Kareem Hunt, Juju Smith-Schuster. Went out and signed Gardner Minshew, Christian Fulton, Jalen Moore, Elijah Mitchell, Bailey Zappi, Jerry Tillery. And then they lost Justin Reed and Nuke Hopkins. What do you think of this Chiefs free agency period, B-Mac?
I gave the Chiefs a B. Mike, I gave them a B. Retaining Trey Smith was important. Nick Bolton, important. Hollywood Brown, you didn't get a full season with Hollywood Brown, so we never really got an opportunity to see what kind of magic he could create with Pat Mahomes. So bringing him back is huge. Kareem Hunt, he's a valuable guy in the backfield. He does things the right way. I love how he exists with Isaiah Pacheco. But I gave them a B because you traded away Joe Thuney a year ago, who was called to do a lot of different things and didn't complain. And he did fairly well in trying to keep the offensive line afloat. That was a surprising move because the last image we have of the Kansas City Chiefs was the offensive lineman not being able to block. Mm-hmm. And you traded away one of your best offensive linemen, one of your most versatile offensive linemen, and Joe. That was surprising. And outside of that, you look at some of the guys they brought in. Gardner Minshew depth behind Pat Mahomes. Christian Fulton kind of revitalized his career a year ago for the Chargers. Is that the consistent Christian Fulton that we will see? We have to remain, and we have to wait patiently for that. And you didn't really bring in, Jerry Tillery, former high-round pick by the Chargers. He's been moved around for quite a few times, still trying to find his stride. That could be a depth move. So, didn't really give you any splash-like signings outside of – I think I'm more intrigued and excited about the players they retained than the players they brought in.
To me, it was just good business. I went A- for the Kansas City Chiefs. Because, moving on from Joe Thuney, probably, at his age, 33 years old, before it falls off, right? You're kind of getting something in return for a guy before it really goes downhill. And then, to me, Jalen Moore signing, if you just watch his tape from a year ago, I'm not so sure that Dan Moore, the guy who got the most money at the tackle position, probably twice as much on almost a per-year basis as Jalen did. I'm not sure he's better. I'm not sure he's the better Moore when watching those two prior for agency. So I do think that one is a very under-the-radar move that could pay off big dividends, and I think there's a reason why it happened like day one of free agency. They nabbed him, and I think he's their starting left tackle next season. Christian Fulton, I think, has been a quality, option at corner throughout his career. So just to get him in the fold, he's not an elite guy. He didn't sign like an elite guy, $10 million a year, but he's a guy that can start for you, gives them a floor at that position. Yep. And then just the guys they prioritized, Trey Smith, Nick Bolton, those are heartbeat guys on both sides of the football, guys you wanted to retain. And again, when you draft guys and they hit the way they did, that's good business in my opinion. So yeah, A-. I think it's just kind of sets them up for continued to be where they're at. Obviously, they need to start hitting on some draft picks, unfortunately, the way they haven't the last couple seasons. But business as usual for the Kansas City Chiefs. I'd say the Chargers, who last year had one of the best free agency periods. They turned this around through a lot of budget signings that paid off big dividends on that defense. And who they got this year? Dante Jackson at corner. Mike Williams is back at wide receiver. Najee Harris at running back. Benjamin St-Juste comes over from the Washington Commanders. Naquan Jones, Deshaun Hand on the defensive interior, and then Mekhi Becton to probably slot in at right guard for them after his year of doing so for the Philadelphia Eagles. And only lost Christian Fulton, Poona Ford, Joey Bosa, Asante Samuel, and J.K. Dobbins still pending. So there's, I said only lost. There's actually a few guys there that were key players for them. So what are your thoughts on their free agency period?
This was hard for me. I was going back and forth. So Charger fans, please forgive me, but I gave them a C. And the primary reason, Mike, I gave them a C. You just talked about the players they lost, right? So let's do compare and contrast. You lost Christian Fulton, who played pretty good football for you, and you brought in Dante Jackson. I don't even know if that's a lateral move because Christian played better football than Dante last year. You lost Asante Samuel Jr., who was injured the majority of the year, but we've seen what he's done in his first 3 years, basically being a starter since day one and really evolving. You lost Asante, and you brought in who did you bring in?
Benjamin St-Juste.
Yeah, from Washington. I don't know if that's a lateral move because I think Asante has played better football. You brought in Najee Harris, and it's looking like you're moving on from J.K. Dobbins. Najee has been a very, very durable, reliable player, but J.K. last year gave you splash, gave you burst, gave you explosive big playability, especially how he started the season. So is that a lateral move? I don't know. And then one area of concern for me, when you look at how they played the game and their success or the lack thereof, was outside of Ladd McConkey, you didn't have anybody, right? He played himself into being wide receiver one. Well, you brought in Jalen Reagor and Mike Williams. When you look at all the other wide receivers that are low bargain moves and the names and, of course, the potential, those are the guys you decided to try to improve your wide receiver room with. That's a wait and see move, but I feel more confident in Mike Williams than Jalen Reagor because Jalen Reagor's still been trying to figure things out. I mean, in terms of who you retain, you brought him back. So, and then also too, think about it like this. The last thing I'll say, you brought back Jalen Reagor and you signed Mike Williams. Joshua Palmer, who you went and let go, granted he got a nice deal, I would say has been more proven over those two players in the last few years than what you brought in and what you retained. So it's a lot of, were these lateral moves or were these moves kind of going in the wrong direction?
Yeah, so last year when they let kind of all those guys walk out the door that were big names like Mike Williams, like Gerald Everett, I kind of thought like it was time. It was time to hit reset. Mm-hmm. Losing like Poona Ford, Christian Fulton, if they lose Asante Samuel Jr., it's like, I don't know. Those guys were kind of guys I would have wanted to retain.
Yes.
And going out and what they did sign. So I went C+ for the Chargers. Yeah. Just the saving grace here being, I like the Mekhi Becton move. I think that 2 years, $20 million for him, not a lot of money, given how, last year's his very first year at guard, very first year on the right side, that he's a guy that immediately gives you a more formidable run game, and fits exactly what Greg Roman wants to do in that offense. So for that reason, you kind of the only saving grace, but I don't like a lot of their other moves, unfortunately.
I'm right there with
you.
And you talked about the Mekhi Becton signing. It's a good signing, but you're hoping that he can stay healthy like he did last year.
Yeah. That's why he signs for that, because the injuries throughout his career with the Jets were just
and then it's almost like why Philly didn't want him back. So, but hopefully he stays healthy, because if he can stay healthy, he will be a significant piece for everything they do on the offensive side. So that's a wait and see.
All right, Denver Broncos, who went out, and they were big players. That's what you can do when you have a rookie quarterback deal. Talanoa Hufanga, they signed, former all-pro safety from the San Francisco 49ers. Dre Greenlaw from the 49ers as well. Evan Ingram at tight end. Some lower down signings, Matt Pert, swing tackle. Trent Sherfield, wide receiver. Retained DJ Jones, Jarrett Stidham, Justin Strnad, and Mitchell Fraboni, their long snapper. Only lost Cody Barton at linebacker. So what do you think about this Broncos free agency period?
I love it, man. I gave them a B+, and I actually want to change my grade here live and give them an A, because as I really look back at everything they did, adding Evan Ingram, they had no tight end production last year for the young quarterback in Bo Nix at all. I'm talking about seam opportunities were not there. Now you got a guy that can work the seam. Now you got a guy that can move the chains for you. And it adds to your offense and helps your young quarterback become better. That's what you got to do. You have a young quarterback, continue to add talent around him, which is a plus. Don't forget, Mike, this was already a very, very good defense a year ago. Well, they went out and got better. Hufanga, when he is healthy, he is baby Troy Polamalu. When he is healthy and he plays to that level with the energy and the passion, I love him. You get a motivated Dre Greenlaw back. And remember when he jumped into the lineup last year, he wasn't in football shape. He was still trying to figure things out. But now he has a full off season to work out and condition healthy. He adds to what you have already on the defensive side, and he brings a mentality of toughness and just bully-like ball, right? Physical nature. I love that, man. So, this is a team that made the playoffs last year, and most people feel like they, exceeded the expectations with a rookie quarterback. But you better look out for the Denver Broncos, because they had a real good value pick in the first round and continue to improve. And, man, if they hit on that first round selection, especially on the offensive side, look out.
I think you hit the nail on the head. This was one of my favorite free agency periods of any team, because they had this awesome defense a year ago, one of the best in the NFL, but had kind of a couple weaknesses. One was safeties that could come up and fill in the run game. Talanoa Hufanga comes up and fills the run game at an elite level. When he's healthy, he is one of the best in the NFL to do just that. And then just range at the linebacker position. And Dre Greenlaw signs for a 3-year, $30 million deal that if he had never blown out that Achilles in that Super Bowl, and you're getting him now, 18 months post Achilles, which should be back to full strength. If he never does that, he's signing top of the market linebacker deal. He's coming in at what Zach Vaughn signed for, twice as much as the deal he got. So you may be getting a steal there. And I like the Evan Ingram signing as well, just getting an athlete at the tight end position to pair with your young quarterback. So it's just like need, value. I think they knocked it out the park with all three of those signings. Got to give him an A for all that. Broncos look like players now in the AFC West. All right, last team before we get to our underrated, overrated, and blockbuster moves we love. Las Vegas Raiders. They obviously made the big splash the Friday prior to free agency, trading for Geno Smith. They did more retaining than signing. Retained Max Crosby, extended him. Adam Butler, Malcolm Roach, they brought back. Signed Jeremy Chin, Alex Kappa, Lonnie Johnson, Eric Stokes, Raheem Mostert, but they did lose some big names here. Trayvon Merrick, the safety, Robert Spillane, and Divine Diablo, their linebackers, Nate Hobbs, their slot cornerback. So a lot of that back seven walking out the door, obviously with Patrick Graham there now as their DC once again. What do you think of this Raiders in their free agency period?
I gave the Raiders an A, Mike. I gave the Raiders an A. If you're Pete Carroll, you're 73 years old, you sign a 3-year deal, you have no time to wait and hope to develop a quarterback. Go get you a quarterback that you have a relationship with and you love what he does and he loves what you do as a coach. Now you got a guy who you don't need to develop. He's ready. Now that conundrum was answered, right? Now you brought back Max Crosby, gave him a new deal. He's already motivated. He's going to be highly motivated. You look at the defensive line, adding Adam Butler, you retain Michael Kuntz. Don't forget, Christian Wilkins is still a part of the Raiders. You just didn't see a lot of him because he got hurt early in the year. So this would be like his first year in the Raider uniform with the guys that you retain along with some of the additions. I love Jeremy Chin. Brought back the Jeremy Chin that we saw early on in his Carolina Panther career. A Swiss Army knife, can play on all three levels, did a great job for Washington. He parlayed that into a nice deal with the Raiders. I love that. Alex Kappa as well, veteran leadership in terms of experience. Man, they really got better. And don't forget, I know they lost Nate Hobbs, but Eric Stokes was a former first rounder. The potential was there. He just never figured everything out there in Green Bay. Now he gets a new opportunity with a new team with first round like talent. So he could be a guy that could be one of their starters in the back end, I think, as well. So, and you add speed with Raheem Mostert. I know he's still old. I mean, he's older in the tooth, right? But he still can run 4.4. Former track guy. And that was an area of concern for them because they had no running back production at all. At least he brings experience and he brings you the big playability because he's still faster than the average running backs.
Yeah, Chip Kelly loves speedbacks. Obviously, just featured one at Ohio State a year ago. I gave this one an A-. Getting Geno Smith pushed this one over the edge. I don't love how much they lost defensively. I think those are some good players they let walk out the door. It's going to be difficult to backfill all those guys in one off season, and especially when you just look at the quarterbacks in their division, right? You have Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and Bo Nix. I want my secondary to be better than it is right now for Las Vegas Raiders, but I love what they did with their defensive line, retaining Max Crosby, giving that extension to make him Raider for life, retaining Malcolm Kuntz, who was on trajectory to be a much, much higher paid player before tearing his ACL last offseason. And you hit the nail on the head. Christian Wilkins barely played last year too. This defensive line could be special if they can just stay healthy this year. So to keep it intact for one more year to run it back, I love. But it all really comes down to Geno Smith. To me, that was an awesome, awesome move. It kind of frees them up there at pick 6 to just add talent around him to this offense. So an A- for the Raiders. Another job well done offseason, in my opinion.